Could Bitcoin hit $100,000 quite soon? Well, the stock to flow ratio says so. Hey and welcome to today's video. My name is Julian. On my channel, it's all about making you crypto fit. That means we talk about stuff like blockchain, cryptocurrencies, decentralization, but also entrepreneurship and mindset. And today I want to look into my crystal ball 3000 and see where could Bitcoin go over the next couple of years, maybe even months. And some of those price forecasts could be crazier than many people might anticipate. And one of the reasons, and this is actually an indicator that I've been looking for a very long time. It's actually an indicator I discuss in Cryptocurrencies Explained Simply, this Amazon bestseller that I have on cryptocurrencies. I'll link it up down below if you're interested in this. I don't specifically mention it there, but it's pretty much what I compare it to. And it kind of compares it to digital gold and what this means and how all these things could be kind of looked at and seen, and the future is really bright for Bitcoin. So what I want to do is I've prepared a little bit of a document, kind of looked this up, and yeah, obviously if you want to have the details, get my book, Cryptocurrencies Simply Explained. I'll link it up below, and but then let's have a preview in document. So basically, what I have here is just a very brief overview. We have this stock to flow ratio, and let's look at what this actually is. Well, we have stock, and stock is pretty much how much of something is in the market. And we're mostly talking about commodities here, mostly precious metals. This is used for. Now then we have flow, and flow is pretty much the new production. And now we have this ratio, stock to flow ratio. And this is basically how long would current flow take to reach stock. So how long does current production take in order to reach the full amount that's out there? And in gold, and you can look up these numbers, it takes about approximately 62 years. And obviously what you want to have is you want to have a very high ratio, because a high ratio means that there's not much inflation. Like it takes a long time until something gets reached. Now silver, it's way smaller, it's 22. And in Bitcoin, we can now obviously say, let's maybe see it very similar to digital gold. And this is just a pure kind of assumption. Now, you need to believe that this is true. If you don't believe this, then obviously the entire stock to flow ratio is not going to help you here. I'm a big believer in this. I kind of mentioned this over and over again. But so here we obviously have, at the moment, we have 17.7 million Bitcoins in circulation, and we're producing 657 a year. Now, you can calculate this yourself simply by doing 12.5 Bitcoins every 10 minutes times 6, that's an hour, times 24 is in a day, times 365, that's where we get to. Now, obviously, and this is the key thing, this is prior to the halving that's going to happen next year. And this is really a key part. So now that we have this, let's kind of think about how is this stock to flow ratio kind of affected by certain things. Now, let's look at gold and let's just look at the normal movement. So let's just say the price goes up. Now, if price goes up, production goes up because the miners, the gold miners, are incentivized to produce more and they have more funds to do so and they want to produce more. Now, because production goes up, the stock to flow goes down because the higher the production, the shorter it takes to reach stock. So stock to flow goes down. Now what we will have at some point, we have so-called overproduction because, well, supply and demand. So we have way more supply. Obviously we have an overproduction and price goes down. Well, and now the stock to flow ratio goes up again. And so basically this is how this is all self-regulated. At the end, at the moment, gold sits and has been sitting historically at around 62. Now here's the key thing. In gold, the main driver of stock to flow, or the main effector, is production. Now, obviously, price has to do with this, but at the end, price doesn't have anything directly in this calculation. It's always production. Production goes up, stock to flow goes down, production goes down, stock to flow goes up, right? And that's kind of how this entire thing regulates itself. Now, here's where it gets really interesting in Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, even if the price goes up, you cannot produce more Bitcoin. It does not work. It's not like in gold where you can increase production. There's always the same amount of flow because at the moment it's 12.5 Bitcoins every 10 minutes approximately. Now here's the thing. If price goes up, the production is still stable. So in order, and this is now a really key part, for stock to flow to go up, the major driver in this entire thing has to be price. It cannot be production. it has to be price in order to get the stock to flow up. And this is such a key part, because what we actually need to end up in the case is, in order to drive something, we need to get this number to 62. And the only way this can work is not via production. It can only happen through price. And this is something that's a really interesting indicator if you think about this. Now, here, there's a graph, and here's the link down below where they kind of analyze this a bit more in detail. They kind of calculated at the moment the fair value of a Bitcoin is around 10,000. Now, based on my math and based on my kind of calculations, it's at the moment the fair value is around 8,500 to 9,500. You cannot really pinpoint it, but I'm fine with the 10,000. But so here's the key part. One thing that you could have seen, and this is very interesting, you could have seen all the time here these dots when basically Bitcoin was overvalued. This entire stock to flow value is actually 95% correct over the past years. And this is crazy if you think about it. This is such an accurate predictor. It would have predicted 2014 bubble. It would have predicted 2016 undervaluation. Here, it would have predicted all that. You can see this all here, where the red jump here is. You could have seen the 2017 bubble going up here, and you would have seen the undervaluation now in the summer. Again, here you have this gap down. And I have used stock to flow, like really looking at it and seeing, hey, you know what? At the moment, I really feel Bitcoin is undervalued and overvalued. And I've used it to invest and take money off the table. And it's very like interesting to see how all this kind of interacts and how this works. And so now, obviously, it's interesting. This is history. Let's look forward. And looking forward, we have obviously a couple of effects. At the moment, the fair value, according to this metric, is around 8,500 to 9,500. Now, obviously, you could pinpoint it at 10,000. I'm okay with this. At the moment, we're just a bit under fair value, so I think there's still a bit of room to go up. And I use this also when I make my prediction at the beginning of the year, where I see Bitcoin and what's kind of be the bandwidth in this entire sector here. But so obviously, and this is now the very key part, we have a halving in 2020. So that means we would split here. We would have this entire ratio because suddenly we have way less production, namely half. And this is completely insane. So by halving this, in order to keep the ratio stable, just from that, the price needs to double. But we are so much lower right now in the stock to flow ratio compared to gold that if we get closer and closer to this, the price should actually go to approximately 100,000, maybe even 300,000. And then we would have a setback, similar how we always have these setbacks, to around 40,000. And you can see this in this entire calculation going up here, where we always have with this happening, we always have this move up. And so here you can see this. Now, obviously, over time, we would get to 1 million here. And this is something that would be the long-term interesting part by 2030 in this kind of example here, that we would reach. So this is now over the next 10 years, we would hit $1 million. This is also something I discuss in my book, how we get there and what this is possible at. But so it's really interesting to look at stock to flow. And I've not seen one metric that's that accurate in predicting price of Bitcoin, and it makes sense, especially if you look at the characteristics in all of that. Now, obviously, I understand this is like crystal ball 3000, and always interesting and always difficult to predict the future, right? So, but what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of drawing from ideas and kind of seeing what could this mean. Would be interesting to hear your feedback, and would be interesting to see what you have to say around all this, because obviously, I might be completely wrong, and these entire stats are completely wrong. But well, so far they've been really correct, and it would be very interesting to see how this all goes forward. If you want to read more about this, get my book, Cryptocurrencies Explained Simply. I'll link it down below. I have all the links of this down below as well, so you can reference check this for yourself, make up your own mind. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this. If you like this stuff, give me a thumbs up. If you want to be notified for more videos, I will be doing regular videos, especially on these things. Then click the subscribe, and very important, the bell button, otherwise you're not going to be notified. With this, see you at the next video. Yours truly, Julian.